War. War never changes. And neither do most of these fucking game franchises nowadays. I mean, come on. I'm still waiting for someone to tell me the difference between Overwatch 1 and 2. I can't figure it out. At least these companies are eco-friendly from all the recycled shit they use from game to game. Remember that time Call of Duty tried to make the fish's AI a selling point because they literally had nothing else new to show off? What the hell, man? It wasn't always like this. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, but also like 20 years ago on Earth, this game called Halo came out, and it changed everything. It had everything. A giant weapons sandbox, co-op and competitive split-screen multiplayer, groundbreaking enemy AI that was actually fun and engaging to fight, a health system called shields that regenerated a certain amount of health over time, meaning that no matter how much damage you took, as long as you didn't die, you'd always have just enough health to fight back at least a little bit. And I'm pretty sure there were lizards. But there was one thing that Halo truly excelled at. One thing it did and still does better than any other shooter to date. One thing to rule them all. And I'm not talking about the lizards, I'm talking about vehicular combat. To understand that, first you need to understand the lore. Let me explain real quick. In Halo, you play as a man named Angry Chief, and Angry Chief fucking hates aliens. So him and his buddies get on a big spaceship called the Pillar of Autumn, which acts like a Trojan horse because they actually invade with it in the spring. That's why Angry Chief is the smartest man in the galaxy, by the way. But because one of the engineers on the Pillar of Autumn was using inches instead of centimeters, the whole goddamn thing explodes, which makes Angry Chief even angrier, and so he starts shooting all the bad guys with his big old machine gun. Eventually, he runs out of ammo, so he kills a guy, picks up his gun, and then mows down all the dead guys' friends with his own gun. That really pisses off the aliens because Angry Chief is appropriating their culture, so they decide to exile him from their planet. Chief leaves and goes off to adventure through unexplored corners of the galaxy when all of a sudden he discovers something amazing. This asteroid that kinda looks like Vin Diesel. He also finds this giant fucking ring in the middle of nowhere. He chills for a bit with his dead homies, but it turns out the aliens were following him because he still has their gun and they want it back. So Angry Chief says, "I'll give it back, one bullet at a time." And so we start shooting all the aliens, and now we're back where we started, except we're somewhere we've never been before, and that place is called Halo. Whew. Alright, so now it's time for the first real mission of the game. As you fight off some more Covenant aliens and explore this strange structure, you'll encounter the first vehicle of the game, but you're not the one piloting it. It's some strange alien technology. As the enemy fighter planes cut through the air, they make this eerie howling sound, almost like some kind of horrific banshee from human folk legend. The louder the howling, the closer you are to death, since these vehicles can instant kill you by ramming into you, splattering your body across the earth. This is the least of your worries though, because these beasts are also equipped with heavy machine gun fire and high-impact explosives that will leave you running for the hills. After escaping from these alien scum, you get word from Command that you're going to be receiving some backup in the form of something called a Warthog. After liberating a few allies, you look off into the horizon and see it. A friendly dropship carrying your new hot rod. As soon as you hop in, you realize the sheer power this bad boy has. From the huge jumps it can make to the quick acceleration, or the perfect handling to give the driver complete control. Not to mention the fact that it's invincible, it comes equipped with a mounted machine gun with infinite ammo that is significantly stronger than what now seems like a puny pea shooter that you used to use. Most importantly, it comes with a friend. It's distinctly human, too. I mean, look at it, you've seen stuff like this before. It's a good breath of familiarity after having to deal with those weird banshee things. This friend of yours is a pretty good shot, too. There's an enemy base that needs to be conquered, and you have several options. You can drive him around the different buildings, raining hell on anyone in his line of sight, while maybe getting a couple of splatter kills in while you're at it. Or you can park him in a tactical spot to lay down suppressing fire while you get up close and personal with the enemy. Personally, I prefer the latter option, and it's not just because I suck at driving, although that might be a part of it. Now, something you need to know about the alien mind is that they have a certain area in the prefrontal cortex section of the brain that is evolved specifically to avoid giant mounted machine guns of death. And you can use their psychology to your advantage. Not only are you positioning your gunner, but in doing so, you're also positioning the enemies. They don't want to get shot, so if they aren't equipped with the tools required to deal with the Warthog, they'll just hide from it. Depending on where you park the hog, there may be only one or two hiding places the enemies can get to without getting mowed down by your buddy. And lucky for you, Angry Chief played varsity basketball back in high school and can fling grenades a crazy distance. One well-placed sticky in their hidey hole, and they're left with two options. Run out into machine gun fire, or get their insides rearranged by your grenade. Either way, you'll have the advantage. It's like a giant sprawling chess game where you're both the puppet master and the most powerful piece on the board. Now notice how every element of the game synergizes with the others. The core of Halo's design, according to the developers themselves, is the freedom to do anything you want at any time. The Warthog is the bastion of this philosophy. How you choose to fight the enemy changes their behavior, and their change in behavior will change how you fight them. It's an ever-evolving process that never gets boring, because one small difference in your decision leads to a butterfly effect of infinitely diverse scenarios. The situations are just predictable enough to allow you to strategize, but unpredictable enough to keep it fresh and interesting. In most games, they do something like this. They give you a pickaxe, a hammer, and a shovel, and then ask you to choose one to dig a hole with. In Halo, they give you a jackhammer, a crate full of dynamite, a titanium shovel sharper than Robert Pattinson's jawline, a couple of loyal compadres, and a 40-foot crane. They don't ask you to do anything with it either. They just drop you off in the middle of the fucking circus and tell you there's buried treasure everywhere. Oh, and you can bring a friend. Yep, Halo has split-screen multiplayer, which means you also have the option to bring your own buddy if your loyal soldiers keep dying on you. Warning, the Halo franchise is not responsible for any trash talk, team killing, or tomfoolery that occurs between friends during gameplay. The invited guest is responsible for providing their own controller and therefore cannot complain if they receive a 5-year-old Minecraft Creeper controller with a malfunctioning left stick. Upon disagreement, the hosting party is the tiebreaker no matter what, even if you really want the Grunt birthday party skull enabled and they say no. Individual friends bought and sold separately. Who you choose to play Halo with is up to you, but the friend I choose to play with is my buddy Anonymous, who is a total car guy. I'm pretty sure the only book he's read in the last 5 years is his Ford Focus Owner's Manual. He plays Forza at least once a week, I play Mario Kart maybe once a year. He drives a manual, I drive a Prius. He's baby driver, I'm a baby driver. When the Warthog shows up, it goes without saying he'll be the one taking the wheel, leaving the gunner seat wide open for me. Now, something really special happens whenever two people get in a Warthog. The gunner seat can be operated entirely with only your right hand on the controller. By contrast, you can drive the Hog with pretty much only your left hand, aside from occasional camera tilts with the right stick. It's almost as if the two halves of your controllers become one. While you're on foot, you're responsible for your own movement and your own shooting. But once you get in the Hog, you only have jurisdiction over one of these, and you need to rely on your friend entirely for the other. The driver needs to decide the most effective route, dodging incoming projectiles and splattering foes on the ground when needed, while focusing on long-term objectives to get where you need to go without dying. The gunner needs to make split-second decisions on what targets require priority. And, because the gun takes a while to move, you have to actively communicate with the driver to line up decent shots. The gun isn't just a death beam that mows down adversaries either. It also scares the enemies into seeking cover, which can open up new opportunities for the driver. Do you go in for hit and runs where you slowly chip away at the enemy's defenses? Or do you blaze right through praying you don't get blasted? Does the driver park the Warthog in between you and a turret, using it as a mobile fort to toss grenades from while the gunner wreaks havoc? Or does the driver ram into the turret to dislodge it while the gunner lays down suppressing fire? Or does the driver drop off the gunner for John Wick-style suicide missions, retreating afterwards to act as a spawn point for the mad gunman, only to go do the same thing again once he respawns? Here's one small detail that I am just obsessed with. The Warthog's gun has infinite ammo, right? And it also has a spin-up time, so once you stop firing, it takes a little bit for the gun to shoot at max speed again. It has to rev up, okay? So the gunner is incentivized to just stay shooting all the time, so he can stay at the max firing speed and constantly be prepared for any attacks. There's no punishment for this. The gun doesn't lose accuracy or lose ammo or overheat or anything like that. It's the most effective thing to do. The sound design is phenomenal too, because it never gets irritating or bothersome. It does, however, vibrate the gunner's controller with every single bullet that he fires. This is a cool detail because it makes the gun feel more powerful and real. It's a lot of fun to shoot. That's one of those things that controllers can just do way better than mouse and keyboard. It's part of the reason Halo is more fun on a controller. That's not the part I love though. The part I love is that it also vibrates the driver's controller. It's a small detail, I know, but the two controllers really do become one in the Warthog. It's just so funny to me that the only time throughout the entire game you are ever incentivized to stop shooting is when your friend says, "Dude, cool it on the gun, you've been firing for the last 15 minutes straight and my hands are starting to go numb." And all of this is just in the campaign. In multiplayer, you don't fight aliens anymore. You fight actual human beings. Who do you think is smarter, an old-ass artificial intelligence written in 2001 or the average Halo player? Don't answer that question. Point is, fighting people in the Warthog is completely different than fighting grunts and elites. If you're on foot and you're trying to deal with an enemy Warthog, you don't have very many options. Just kidding, it's Halo, you have a million options. You could shoot the driver, shoot the gunner, shoot the passenger, shoot the body of the vehicle to destroy it, throw a frag grenade in the ground where you predict the Warthog is about to be, timing it perfectly so the frag explodes right as they drive over it, throw a sticky grenade on the body itself, hijack the driver's seat, get in the passenger seat while the driver is still there and start punching the poor guy while the gunner is left helpless because he can't aim down far enough to shoot you. You can even hijack the mounted machine gun while the enemy is driving the car, leaving you both in this awkward position where you can't hurt each other but have to work against each other in the same vehicle while both teams are firing at you. In Halo Infinite, you can even change seats without leaving the vehicle, creating these hilarious musical chair scenarios where you're trying to one-up each other while still trying to drive the damn thing without getting shot by an enemy or sacrificed for the greater good by one of your own teammates' rockets. I have played a good few co-op games in my time, but nothing compares to the camaraderie felt during a Warthog mission. I've played many strategy games, but nothing quite feels like finding the perfect strategic position to place a Warthog in while you get your hands dirty in a firefight. And I have played a lot of shooters, but none have ever crafted a vehicle more fun, cooperative, tactical, chaotic, or downright hilarious than the Hog. Halo is a true masterpiece, with the Warthog front and center in the middle of the canvas. The only problem is that the lizards don't appear until the 4th frickin' game! I have 4 games too, but I put lizards in the very first one. You can play them all for free on PC or mobile by clicking the first link in the description.